Oh, yeah. Kalamai. Thank you for joining us. This standing committee of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs is responsible for advancing the interests of Native Hawaiian beneficiaries through policy oversight, legislative review, and targeted advocacy. Our scope includes critical areas such as health, housing, education, economic development, environmental protection, and the stewardship of culturally significant lands and waters. We recommend positions on legislative measures, review programs, approve nominations, and this committee serves as a direct link between community voice and decision-making, and we remain guided by the principles of kuleana, aina, and justice. So let's proceed. I want to welcome everyone and acknowledge my staff, Trustee Aide Leanne Stender-Durant, serving as the committee recording secretary, and Secretary Mauli Ola Boardroom, serving as technology specialist. Leanne, please take the roll.
Trustee Ahuna,
Present.
Trustee Akaka,
Yo.
Trustee Akina,
Aloha mai kako.
Trustee Alapa, not present. Trustee Kahele, Trustee Lindsay,
Present.
Trustee Souza,
Yo.
Trustee Waihe'e, not present at the moment. Chair Galuteria.
Right.
You have 7 present. You have a quorum.
Mahalo. Okay. Public testimony will be allowed on each agenda item and will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Before moving on to the items on the agenda, I would like to call our COO, Keishawn Kikina, to join us at the board table to introduce administrative staff joining us here today. Aloha.
Aloha kakaya kakako, mahalo nui no keia halavai trustees. This morning we have with us in support of this meeting our interim administrator and CEO, Summer Silva, our senior director of Hawaiian Cultural Affairs, Lāma Kukui, our director of advocacy, Leina Alele, our public policy manager, Deja Ostrovsky, our director of communications, Bill Brennan, and our IT systems engineer and administrator, Kyle Saucier. Mahalo.
Mahalo for that. All right. And now hold on a second. One sec. Okay, let's move to new business, which is to update the board and discuss OHA positions on legislative bills and measures and the 2026 legislative session wrap-up. So I'd like to call to the table Chief Advocate Leina Alele and Deja Ostrowski to join us at the board table. And as you folks get settled, I want to thank you guys for doing the heavy lifting this past session. Appreciate it. I think we've got a couple of things that we want to share with the board that, frankly, I'm pretty enthusiastic about. Okay?
Good morning, trustees.
Well, before you begin, any public testimony about today?
Not at this time.
Legislative update. Okay, proceed, Le.
Thank you, Chair. Next slide, please. So we have a high-level overview. Of course, bills still have to go to the governor for signature, and some may be vetoed. So we have a more in-depth report that we're preparing. A more in-depth report that we're preparing for the trustees for after we get through the vetoing stage of the process, but this is a snapshot of where we are coming out of session. Last day was Friday, so this is what the legislature has advanced and now goes to the governor. So we had 433 bills with positions this year. Not all of those had testimony because some of them were monitor. We tracked 1,282 bills, and there were 2,459 introduced, so it was a busy year. Next slide, please. So our package bill, or our package measures, are on the first slide, and I only put the House bills for a reason because none of them actually had a Senate side hearing, which is interesting. But they all moved at least, except for the rent stabilization and the live fire training bill. The other 4 bills had at least one committee hearing. And the commercial aquarium collection ban got pretty far before it died. It got all through the House, passed over to the Senate, got through the Water and Land and Hawaiian Affairs, but didn't get conference appointees. So that was the commercial aquarium collection ban. The Historic Preservation Review, HB 2102 was the one that we had another vehicle moving, HB 1710, but in the end, during the conference process, the OHA language was stripped, so that language did not survive. HB 2103 also made it to the Senate, but died in its first committee hearing on the Senate side in Water and Land. So the only bill that made it all the way through was the Island Burial Council bill, which is a significant reform. It lowers the quorum requirement to majority of all appointed seats, and given the high number of vacancies on the Island Burial Councils, this will allow them to meet and do business more regularly, which is important. They have a very high cancellation rate in the past due to quorum requirements, so we think this will help them meet quorum and do business. And just briefly on the topic of vacancies, we had forwarded to the governor 16 Island Borough Council nominees, and none of them were advanced to the Senate. So we sent a letter recently, and we are trying to follow up with the governor's boards and commission branch about what happened there, because that just illustrates the problem of why the Island Burial Councils can't meet.
Any questions, members? You know, from personal experience, it appears that the law, the statute, is quite vague on island burial councils, and is subject to interpretation by whomever wants to interpret it. So next year, I would like for us to take a look at the actual statute itself and try and tighten it up as much as possible.
Yes, and that is what our Burial Sites Working Group, which was formed last year, is currently doing. So they will be presenting their report to the trustees in November of this year, looking at the statute comprehensively.
Okay, very good.
And then one more thing on HB 2104, we'll also have to come back with an action item, because in addition to the quorum reforms, the other piece of that bill was to allow OHA to provide a stipend for MOKU representatives so that they don't have financial barriers to participation. So we're going to bring an action item back to the board on that
How did that
portion
fly?
of the bill.
How did it fly?
You know, that it was fine once the legislators understood what we were trying to do. And there's already you can do, or the members can submit for actual expenses by submitting receipts. But it's a little bit of a burdensome process, and DLNR still has to pay those. Like if somebody comes and says, I had to fly on the airplane or drive and gas, and they submit their receipts, that all goes to DLNRs. Ours would be just a stipend, like a flat stipend, like $100 per meeting you go to. So that has yet to be brought to this board for further decision making.
Okay, members, any questions or any comments? Vice Chair? Pardon me? Yeah, I think we're going to get to 903, yeah?
Yes.
Momentarily.
Yes, it is on the next slide.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you for that. So let's continue moving.
So next slide is on Matrix 2. And these were the OHA named bills, and this is just a high-level overview. We can go to the next slide and talk through what that means. So the first one, of course, is the $55 million. This account is being transferred to OHA if the governor signs the bill, of course. And then there were additional updates to the Public Land Trust Working Group. That they will, as a third task after the audit and inventory, is to discuss governance options in the future. And also it updated the membership again. The Senate President and the House Speaker will each be appointing 2 additional members, and then those members, which are in addition, the 3 OHA and the 3 governor appointees, will collectively select the community member that will be the 9th seat. But other than selecting the community member, the Speaker and Senate President appointees will be ex officio, so they will not be voting on other substantive decisions other than who shall be the community member. So I'll pass it to the trustees for further comment, because I know Trustee Galuteri, you were there with us last week, and
Yeah, well, I want to thank you folks for doing what you did. But firstly, members, do we have any questions for our advocacy team? No? Vice Chair?
Mahalo. I wanted to specifically speak to SB 903. I think this is quite something that this came through. I know there was a lot of hesitation on the Senate side, and it took a lot to get this through. So I did want to take this time as well to acknowledge some of the key players in there. We had the House conferees, Kahaloa Tarnis, Liloy, Garcia, he was excused that day, Senate conferees, Richards, Moriwaki, and DeCourt. And also the support of the Senate President, the House Speaker, the Hawaiian caucuses, House Judiciary Hawaiian Affairs, the Vice Chair, the Chair, those members, the Senate Hawaiian Affairs, Chair, Vice Chair members, as well as all the legislators that supported this, as it was 25-0 and 51-0.
Right.
And mahalo nui to the community that has supported this as well. It's been integral in getting it through. Also, the Finance Committee, the Ways and Means Committee, that those chairs, those vice chairs, those committee members. And I'm very happy that you folks did in fact take my recommendation and send those thank you letters to the legislators and those that have been key, integral members in making this happen. Very honored to have been a part of it. I'm very happy that it's gone through and that it is highlighted that this is a collaboration with Office of Hawaiian Affairs as well as the legislature in terms of making sure that these federal cuts are addressed and that our Native Hawaiian communities are continued to be taken care of when it comes to health, education, and economic resiliency. Mahalo.
Okay, mahalo. Of course, we got one more step to go, and that's for the governor to sign it. We're hoping he does the right thing, you know. And then the heavy lift comes about how we're going to disseminate $55 million for the federal cuts. But we'll determine that as we go. So we'll see. We've got, and by the way, we do have a request in for a signing ceremony, right? Well, that's going to go in.
That's going to go in. We have not submitted that.
Okay. What's that?
I'll just do it on the mic. We did receive that paperwork from the governor's office. It's due May 28th, but we have not officially sent that document in yet, just to clarify, but yes.
Okay. Yeah, and let the chair acknowledges Representative Kahaloa, who actually drafted the
She did a lot of the legwork for
yeah,
this.
the amendments
Consistently work.
for that. Just for our listening audience or our viewing audience, it was a bill that was revived from last year, which ended up in conference committee. And then what basically went in did not mirror the original bill because there was a lot of movement going on. And so with that, we've strengthened not only our ability to help fund federal cuts, but in addition to that, we've strengthened the working group, the Public Land Trust Working Group. And so that will provide, that working group, they will make suggestions on how we move forward with regard to a ceded lands inventory, public lands inventory. That is, I think, something everybody can appreciate. And then secondly, the reporting process of revenues derived from the ceded lands. So this is a huge win for us, of course, if the governor signs it. So hopefully by next time we meet as a committee, we'll be able to report back. Yeah? Okay, very good. Is there anything else?
If I could say, Chair, because you are clarifying for listeners, the 55 million was also what's in the OHA trust
Carry
account and wasn't a separate appropriation, but was money that had already been identified by the agencies as due to OHA.
Yes, that's a carry forward account.
Yes.
And also to note that only OHA can access that, as it's specifically just for OHA, the overage and the payments that are due from our Crown and government lands.
Yeah. I found that the speeches from the floor were pretty interesting and very positive. But it also underscored the lack of the knowledge of the representatives in some cases. For instance, Mahina Poi Poi, she said, I didn't even know there was a carryover account. And that's pretty significant.
Well, that's part of the myth busting that is part of my recommendations when it comes to the committees that are going to be hearing or we are looking to have hear these bills. It's important to share, educate with the chairs, the vice chairs, and the members to ensure that they have all the proper information that they need to reach the decision that makes sense. That's always important. So I'm glad after the AG's testimony in the Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs Committee and the Finance that, that recommendation was taken up that we need to do more of a full court press in terms of coverage to make sure that the correct information is going on. Another thing I recommended too is that we need to have a protocol when it comes to matters like as large as this, impacting as this, for us to have it coordinated where we have press releases going out, any footage or photos that are taken that would be helpful for our beneficiaries to see, that is shared as well as key information, and that be coordinated as it needs to be. I think that's something that needs to be coordinated between the administration and the BOT regularly when it comes to these matters.
I don't disagree, especially something of this magnitude.
Yes.
It's pretty large. Okay, members, anything you'd like to add or any questions for our team here? No? Okay,
One other thing,
okay.
I want to acknowledge the work of you and Trustee Lindsay for your continued work with the working group. I think that's really been integral in terms of working with Kahaloa as well as the Speaker of the House with their continued support of this.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Just to let Trustee Lindsay know that we're putting some muscle on the bone over here for the working group, so get ready, Chair. We're going to do some hard work. Okay, very good. Thank you, Vice Chair. Appreciate that.
And
Okay,
Chair-
Trustee, anything? Oh, okay, go ahead.
I was going to go on to the other bills, but if there's any other comments on 903.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight before we move on, there's a few other bills that passed and resolutions that names the chair or his designee. So one is a new Office of Marine Affairs within the Technology Development Corporation, which is part of DBED. And that it's currently a informal governor appointed body, and it's becoming more formalized, and it's looking at both how to increase economic opportunities related to the ocean, and then of course we do want to also make sure there's safeguards, so that'll be a forum to coordinate with other agencies, and of course OHA ceded land or the Public Lands Trust includes submerged land, so I think this is a very important bill to be aware of. There is also a task force looking at redesign of an Oahu correctional facility to focus on rehabilitation, which is pretty interesting, and OHA is also designated for that task force with a number of other Native Hawaiian groups like Papaolo Lokahi, as well as correctional representatives, the DCR chair, and adult correctional officers, so individuals with experience in the prisons. So that's interesting. HB 2050, which was a public financing bill from last year that we continued to advocate that OHA candidates have parity in public funding equal with the lieutenant governor's race, which is another statewide race. And really, they didn't make any amendments that were particularly favorable to OHA. So there continues to be inequities in the ability of OHA candidates to receive public financing. And then there's one more bill on the next slide. And it's just the last working group that was created. If we could go to the next slide. It is trying to help ensure that ag lands are actually kept in ag production. So OHA is chair is named along with sent with legislators, with Department of Ag, Agribusiness Development Corporation. So that I think is another important working group to look at how can we ensure that farmers are getting the support that they need, but also that our ag lands aren't getting eroded and transferred into other uses just by lack of oversight. That's all for that matrix.
Okay. Once again, we're not patting ourselves on the back yet, if at all. We still got to get the governor to sign. Okay. Trustees, any questions or comments about these outcomes? No? Okay. That's it for the ledge.
Nope, we have, sorry, we can try and speed through there. So
Okay.
these are pretty important. Next matrix is ceded lands. If you could go to the next slide, please. I wanted to highlight SB 2169 as when it was in committee. It had some good language that was taken out, and this is a significant bill because it allows the Agribusiness Development Corporation to condemn both private and public lands, which is interesting. In concept that you could condemn another agency's land. And it also allows later transfers to third parties without the protections that are provided by HRS Chapter 171. I think as everyone here knows, right now, if DLNR wants to alienate public lands, they have to go to the BLNR in a public meeting, get formal approval. And then if it's a sale to a private party, it actually has to go to the legislature for approval. So this basically allows the ADC to have greater leeway to alienate public lands than DLNR has. So we would like to suggest that the governor veto this bill. DLNR, I assume, will be doing the same because they had asked for language that was in the last version of the bill before it went to conference, which actually said, okay, ADC can have power to condemn private lands, but not public lands. And that was language that DLNR had requested and was put in by the Senate Water and Land Committee, but then was subsequently taken out in conference. So we would be aligning with DLNR and asking for a veto of this bill because it doesn't have that language to protect public lands from being taken and then alienated to a third party.
Yeah.
And then the other one is not as concerning, but it will allow BLNR to permit taking of sand so we can participate by monitoring at the agency level, which is a practice we already have in public policy. So we'll keep an eye on how this other bill develops.
Was it specific to where the sand could be taken from?
No, it was statewide. It said in the preamble to the bill that this is already a practice that BLNR has, that they do allow taking of sand, but it's actually not authorized by statute. So it's bringing the statute into alignment with what is already a BLNR practice. I think it's supposed to be pretty limited. It's education, research, management, and propagation. I think management and propagation are the more ambiguous terms, which is why we're going to monitor how it's implemented at the agency level.
Okay. Any more? Anything else? We got another slide?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
We have one for each matrix. Next slide, we can just talk high level. Next slide, please. So there were some good bills passed, again, that still need to be approved. There was one, the one to allow for community co-management, such as occurs at Ha'ena. There was one to prohibit building of gondolas, essentially, which was the proposal on Mount Ka'ala. I don't think this bill would apply retroactively to that project, but the idea is that we don't want to have those types of large structures on mountains, which are basically conservation district zoned. So we'll see how that one fares as far as the veto process. This one was just related to coconut rhinoceros beetle, which continues to be a hot topic. And then the last one is another one we're going to ask the governor to veto. It reduces protections in the coastal zone. And it specifically is focused on we're not going to ask the governor to veto it, but I did just want to highlight it. It focuses right now on Lahaina, but all of the Maui representatives and senators voted against it. So we don't have to get involved, but I did want to flag that we think it's a bad bill and that it's limited to Lahaina. It was requested, I guess, by the county, but it's not supported by the legislators. So it was a little bit of a disagreement among the different officials. But overall, we think it's a bad policy because the SMA permitting stage is when the community has an opportunity to talk about public access to shorelines that significantly affects Native Hawaiian rights.
Okay.
Sorry, what?
Trustees, any questions on this particular matrix? No? Okay, Lei, please continue.
Okay, sorry, we do want to ask to veto that one, just to clarify, HB 1823.
1823,
Yes.
okay.
Okay. Next slide, please. I'll let Deja handle this one. Could we go to the significant outcomes, the next slide?
Yeah, so one of the bills that passed was HB 2309, which allowed the lease extensions to go to nieces and nephews. So it would be in line with Hawaiian family structures. And so these are lessees that are already awarded. It's for successorship. The other one that was great just to see is SB 2552. It's nearly identical to a 2018 OHA package bill, so it just shows how we've been kind of ahead of the curve on some of these policies that are finally implemented. It would allow individuals to save up to $20K per person in pre-tax savings for a down payment on a home. So it's great that that was finally updated and passed and making it workable. It had not been changed, and so it was like $7,000 for a down payment. So that's great. The big bill that was a loss was HB 2409, and then there was the SB 3081. Sorry, that's not on there. The DHHL Conveyance Tax Funding Bill. So we understand that was kind of an issue between the House and the Senate. And it was a victim, I think, in conference. We've had a lot of folks already when we were handing out the mahalo letters who asked us to consider what it would look like next year working on that bill. We had also been working with some of the other legislators on tenant protection bills. So those are ones that would just say, for example, there's no requirement right now that landlords give tenants information on what landlord-tenant rights are. So it was going to ask the Office of Consumer Protection to create a notice that would just go out to all tenants. And the other one that it was a carryover measure, which was revived in conference, and we were all excited and thought it was going to happen. Rep. Grandinetti and as well as Rep. Tarnas had revived it during conference, but it didn't pass. And that was eviction sealing if you win against your landlord. So it's similar to our support for things like Clean Slate Initiative for criminal records. Let's say that you and your landlord have a dispute and you end up winning. That is still on your record, even though you won. And so other landlords might look into it and say, they might not understand that you'd actually prevailed. So, but that bill did die. And then the other one is HB 1741, which this is the one we actually would like to request a veto given the language that came out in conference. So this is the one that reduces the county's authority to require affordable housing, particularly counties like Maui and Kauai. They require if you build a luxury resort hotel, you need to provide workforce housing. And this bill would limit their ability to do that. So we are recommending the county's only weighed in at the very last minute. And so we're recommending maybe we ask for a veto on that one.
All right. Any questions, members? No? Okay. Continue.
So this was another big matrix. This has all our criminal justice bills and our health-related bills. So there were a few good ones related to helping inmates nearing release access SNAP, providing a youth ID, which helps prevent run-ins with the law, essentially, if you have an ID. So it can reduce unnecessary juvenile detention and interaction with the criminal justice system. There are a number of significant bills that died this session. One was to require that the Department of Corrections have a planned timeline for bringing back individuals who are currently incarcerated out of state. And this has been a long time community initiative to try and get people back home where they're closer to their families to support rehabilitation and reentry. So that was really disappointing to the advocate community, as well as a compassionate release bill, which would be for individuals essentially with hospice and end-of-life care needs that are no longer a safety concern, but would like to, spend their last days with their family. And this is actually a practice that has been implemented in 48 other states. So Hawaii is behind the curve in not having a similar process to allow people to go home at end of life. And then surprisingly, the health loan repayment fell through again, even though it's supported by all the major healthcare systems to try and recruit individuals into the healthcare field in rural communities specifically. So this was also a disappointing one, but we expect all of these to be back next year.
Okay. Members, any questions about this matrix? No? Okay, seeing none, please proceed.
Okay, next slide, please. Getting close to the end. The bill to support Kamehameha schools passed very early in the session. And it basically addresses the fact that private educational institutions have give their scholarships in a capacity as gifts. So there's no contract claims that can be made against these schools, which relates to the Kamehameha schools lawsuit filed by the Do No Harm coalition to challenge the admissions policy. And then there were a number of good bills that died that we'd like to see come back, which was one was Keiki Ride Free to help kids be able to get to school on the bus. And the other one was funding for the state's early learning programs. And do you know more about what happened with HB 2019?
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head when it died. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to say these are two more that we'd like to support again next year because it would be significant for our keiki.
So does 3123, does that adequately protect Kamehameha from the challenges that are coming?
My understanding is it relates just to one of several claims.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Members, any
Okay.
questions about this matrix? No? Okay, proceed, please.
Okay, almost there. Second to the last, economic development. The local bidding preference, this one will be a big boost to help local businesses be able to compete in the bidding process. I think it provides a 5% cost differential. So if they're 5% under or higher, they would still qualify on a low bid if it's a locally based business. And then a number of good bills related to support for community did die. They're listed here, exempting food from the general excise tax, rental car. Well, I'm not sure why this one is economic development, but anyway, the rental car, having the rental car tax fund, DHHL, that was another mechanism that was introduced this year in addition to the conveyance tax, which was on the sale of property. So it was another DHHL funding proposal. The co-op development program was related to...
This is the bill that's supported by Keone DeFranco guys to talk about kind of having a state co-op development. I understand we have some like pilot programs, but that is also the one that died. So we had talked to them as well as Pony about, and we had supported this bill.
Okay, and then the last one is Hawaiian Council had a bill to try and ensure that a greater number of lei purchased by the state are grown and made locally, and that one also died. That was a Hawaiian Council priority, so we expect that one will be back next year.
Okay, hold on. Vice Chair?
Hello. This reminds me as well, another culturally significant bill that did pass this year was the Laulau Day. So that was pretty great in terms of our cultural celebrations, and that happened to fall, I want to say, on May Day this past year. May Day, late day. So that was great, and I believe House Representative Darius Kila had introduced it after seeing the kimchi bill passing through in the celebration of the Korean culture and thinking, well, we need something for our Hawaiian culture as well. So that was pretty significant and caught some news as well.
Laulau Day. Oh, okay. All right. Members, anybody else like to weigh in or ask questions? No, seeing none, okay. Well,
Okay,
the-
last
the final
matrix,
right?
yes. 9 is the last one, Iwi Kupuna. So HB 1710 was the one we mentioned earlier, moved in the end without the OHA language and has some other concerning aspects. So we're going to be continuing to work with SHPD and some of the key legislators off session, in addition to what you had mentioned, Chair Galutario, with respect to our internal review of the statute. We're also trying to be more involved with SHPD and they're also on the borough sites working group. So we're going to continue to monitor the implementation of these bills. SB 2544, I'm not, do you want to talk about that one? I'm not as familiar with that one.
So this is one that was kind of trying to implement some of the speed task force recommendations inside this 5-year Hawaii Builds pilot program. We still had comment on it, and so it's something we're going to have to monitor for implementation of how it actually works out. There's a lot of interest in sort of allowing for exemptions from rules that are beneficiaries and we like to see, all for the purpose of building supposed affordable housing. So I think a lot of these, it's in the details and what actually comes out. So they've established this pilot project framework, but we're just going to need to monitor if there's actually truly affordable housing, and are we seeing, you know, folks are asking us to give up a lot of protections in exchange for things that sometimes don't really work or affordable for our beneficiaries.
Okay, and the last one is related to Kalau Papa. And it resolves some of the outstanding issues that the community has raised, but it doesn't resolve all of them. So it allows for the transfer of authority to the county of Maui after the last patient passes away. But the reason this was on the Iwi Kupuna and Historic Preservation Matrix is because there's also some controversy. Right now, it's a designated federal national park, which has some issues. It creates some issues with access and community management. So we're continuing to monitor the situation here to see once it is no longer being used for individuals who live there, how should it be managed? Is it appropriate to be a national park, which is, you know, federal management, or is there some other management? Because it's actually not owned by the feds. Most national parks are actually owned, they're federally owned land, but this is still state-owned land, and the national park just manages it pursuant to lease with the HHL and DLNR. So it's not fee-owned by the federal government. So there's a lot of questions about how should these public land trust lands be managed after it's no longer needed for the you know, community of individuals who've been living there. So that's why we're monitoring this situation to see how we can support the community in being able to have better access, and whether the federal government is the best lessee of these lands.
Is that something that the Public Land Trust Working Group could address?
They could consider it when we're talking about the audit.
Sure. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Members, anything you'd like to add? Okay. All right. Very good. Is that it? Okay.
Yes, thank you for your patience. The last one's a mahalo to all the trustees and our team that's listed here. We have in Hilo, Sharde, and Kamaile. We have on Kauai, Aloha. Here in Lāma Kukui, we have Kyla, who was our admin assistant this year and helped make the matrices, which is a huge task. We have Imiloa McKenna and Michelle in public policy, and then Kamakana, our interim compliance manager, and everyone helped a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Okay. So that's it for the update. All right, very good. Any final thoughts, members? Okay, Chair wants to recognize Trustee Alapa, who just arrived. Okay. All right, let's move to the next item on the agenda, B, discussion and action on 2026 Honolulu Charter Commission, OHA's position on the charter amendment proposals. Any public testimony?
Yes, we have one, Jermaine Myers.
Okay, Jermaine? You want to come on up? You can stay there, Lee. Jermaine, yeah. Come and join us on the table. Okay. Okay, thank you. You got 5 minutes.
Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes.
Okay. Aloha, Chair Kaliutera, Vice Chair Akaka, and honorable trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers. I am an OHA Native Hawaiian beneficiary and an elected member of the Nanakuli Maili Neighborhood Board number 36. I am testifying on agenda item 2B, discussion and action on 2026 Honolulu Charter Commission, OHA position on charter amendment proposals. First, I appreciate OHA reviewing charter amendments affecting Native Hawaiian rights, cultural stewardship, and governance. I especially appreciate support for proposals recognizing Native Hawaiian values and strengthening Native Hawaiian representation in government. However, I respectfully wish to express disappointment that OHA did not appear to meaningfully engage Honolulu neighborhood boards in the County of Honolulu and grassroots Native Hawaiian communities during this process. Neighborhood boards are one of the few formal government structures where everyday residents directly raise concerns about housing, public safety, infrastructure, cultural resources, and environmental impacts affecting their communities. 3 neighborhood boards of the Nanakuli Maili Neighborhood Board individually submitted 5 charter amendment proposals to the Charter Commission affecting our community. I personally submitted 2 proposals. The first was Proposal P212 regarding equitable landfill siting. For decades, the Waianae Coast has carried disproportionate environmental burdens for Oahu, including landfill impacts and infrastructure strain. Native Hawaiian communities should not continue being treated as sacrifice zones for island-wide burdens. The second was Proposal P271 regarding homeless encampment enforcement at city parks and beaches. This proposal was not about criminalizing homelessness. It was about restoring balance, public safety, sanitization, including of our waters, and protection of parks and beaches for families, keikis, kupunas, while still demanding compassionate solutions and equitable shelter infrastructure. My broader concern today is this: how can OHA truly support community-based Native Hawaiian initiatives if OHA is not consistently engaging the grassroots community living these realities every day? OHA should not only engage statewide organizations and policy advocates, OHA should also build stronger relationships with neighborhood boards, homestead communities, and grassroots leaders across Native Hawaiian communities. I respectfully encourage OHA to develop a more formal outreach and consultation process with neighborhood boards before taking official positions on future charter amendments and major county policy proposals. The people closest to the problem often understand the impacts most clearly. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify today. Ke akua pu. God bless all of you.
Thank you very much. Point well taken, Jermaine. I mean, neighborhood boards is about as ground game as you're going to get. Thank you. Take all of your suggestions under consideration. Okay. Any other public testimony, Van?
Yes, one more Pikachu billionaire.
Okay. Can we pull him up? Pardon me? He's online? Pikachu, can you hear? Can you hear us? No? Okay, there you go.
Good morning, all of you all. So, thank you all for doing your matrix. I followed the whole Keanu Reeves thing. I want to help congratulate you on SP 903, which represents $55 million. That's going to go for the Native Hawaiians. Now, regarding the math, so it's about, how much would I say was like 79 million or 20%? It was like off of 300 something million. So to me, you're still short 57.4 million. You guys are getting 55 million. You're still short 2.4 million according to my math. So it's like a Bible. It's like they guys owe you this money every single year. And so it's not like you're getting it every single year, and like you alluded to earlier, whether the governor signs or not, we just don't want him to veto. But it sounds like from Leana said, they're already setting it up. They want you to do the pre-sign ceremony. So it sounds like he wants to put it in the bag, lock it down, because it's election cycle this year again, as we all know. So it's a good thing. Now, also HB 1800, that passed as well to the state of Hawaii. So I'm glad Leala did the legislation, shows you guys what you have to work on, because you all know it's going to reset next year, and we're going to reset all over again. We might have new chairs. Carl Rhodes is out from Judiciary, and we can retarget all of these things to the Hawaiian Affairs Committee. You guys know Finance, Ways and Means. So that's the good stuff. And I already tagged you guys on Facebook, put everything. I didn't have time to send you guys an email, because we also have City Council today. They're going to about a $5 billion budget. I was the only Hawaiian to testify no, because it was $6 billion to me. And they're only allocating $32.5 million for emergency funds. So when I challenged Andrew Topola, my rep, she was talking about the landfill, like Jermaine Myers mentioned, and she's talking about a $30 million for Campbell, just condemn it. So it's really bad because, you know, we're going to die as a Native Hawaiian population that we live closest in Nanakuli on the west side. So we think that we're going to die fastest and quickest, and that's why we're here to negotiate, because Campbell Industrial owns that land. When we talked to Josh, we talked to Babcock, and we had this recent quarterly meeting here in Nanakuli. You guys were at your trustee meeting, I think, on Maui. We were having at the same time. No matter what we said or how we felt, everyone in the room said no to the landfill, but they're still going to push it forward in 7 years. So they have a new mayor. They don't really care. Rick Blangiardi, I was out in China negotiating for pandas. It's true. If you look up the China panda contracts, about 10 years, $1 million per panda. But pandas have lonely kung fu panda syndrome. You can't only have one, so you have to have two. And so you're gonna have care, 2 or 4. So you're looking at 2 to $4 million to $10 million a year for pandas. So to me, Rick Blanchard's priorities are all holy puka backwards. And I don't want to keep you guys all of your time because you got a lot of stuff to do to redo re-legislation. Mike Gabbard, Tulsi Gabbard's father, told me to get him back in October and November about human trafficking and drug smuggling and to break up the bills. Because we do it all together at once, it's very hard. They'd rather have us separated. So that's my feedback to you guys, going to the legislature and testifying on all these bills. I'm finally glad they're going to give you 55 million, but I know that you guys owe at least 57.4 when we sent all those testimonies to the legislature. My last thing I want to leave off with you guys, because I know you guys give me 5 minutes, but I don't got to talk for that long. Today's also Kurt Villa's father's celebration of life. So Senator Creflo Villa's dad is passing away. So even I've been Waiana, I should be at city council or I'd be seeing you guys, but we're going on Zoom. I went Sabrina Grace and Ohana, and I'm trying not to cry and bring out tears because I cannot bring back the dead when people pass, but we're going to honor them. So in your guys' time for celebrations, could you please honor Senator Creflo Villa and also Ohana? Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you. Mahalo for that. Thank you for your insightfulness, too, about the process. It's probably the first time I saw him without dark glasses. Anyway, mahalo for that. Okay, any other public testimony, Lei?
No more testimony.
Okay, members, before we go on, I'm going to make a motion to approve OHA staff's recommended positions on the 2026 Honolulu Charter Commission Charter Amendment, proposals rather, as reflected in the matrix published with the May 13th BAE agenda. Okay? Okay, so having made that motion, why don't we continue? Charter amendments. Leina Ala? Oh, Deja?
Yes, so I will just let you know there are a few of these amendments since publication that are not going to make the final pass to the Charter Commission. We're winding down. On Monday will be kind of one of the style committee's final looking at some of the wording on those. But one that we think is really important that's addition to all of these are the other ones where we've already submitted some of the testimony when it appears on the agenda for the Charter Commission. Is item number 8, P186. That's a new one that we are recommending that OHA support, which amends the charter preamble to recognize Native Hawaiian values. And so that's the only new one. The rest of these are ones that were already approved in the past on previous matrix. Mahalo.
Okay. Members, any questions or comments about the charter amendments? Proposals? No? Okay. Let me see. Do we have to?
You made the motion, so.
We got to vote. Okay, so let's take a vote on, to approve the recommended positions on the charter amendment proposals. Leanne?
Trustee Ahuna.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Akaka. Okay, we'll circle back. Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Lindsay. Is she on? Okay. Not present at the moment. Trustee Souza is excused. Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Trustee Galatario.
Aye.
You have one. Oh, Trustee Akaka.
Aye. I also believe Trustee Lindsay is on.
Is
Yeah.
Oh, Trustee Lindsay.
Yes, I.
Thank you. You have 8 yes votes and 1 excused absence.
Okay, very good. Thank you, members. All right, we move to our next item on the agenda, which is community concerns and celebrations. And as a friendly reminder, trustees, and thank you, Lei. Thank you, Deja. And thank your team for us, okay? On this next item, we are unable to participate with our beneficiaries during community concerns, okay? All right. Leanne, do we have anyone online or in person that has anything to share during community concerns and celebrations?
Yes, we do. Jermaine Myers.
Jermaine? Come. Aloha. You okay?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Aloha, Chair Galiatera, Vice Chair Akaka, and honorable trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers, an OHA Native Hawaiian beneficiary. I wish to use community concerns and celebrations today to raise serious concerns regarding a recent procurement exemption notice posted by the Office of Hawaiian Affairs under the leadership of the current board majority and board chair, Kai Kahele. The notice of request for exemption from HRS Chapter 103D seeks specialized advisory services related to, quote, the valuation, due diligence, and potential acquisition of broadcast media assets, quote. The exemption specifically references advisory services for possible acquisition of television or broadcast assets, including FCC regulatory analysis, station valuation, transaction advisory services, and long-term operational analysis of broadcast media operations. As a beneficiary, I am deeply concerned that OHA's current board majority may be exploring acquisition of a television station or other broadcast media outlet without sufficient transparency regarding the purpose, its costs, risk, and long-term obligations of such a major undertaking. First, the procurement amount is listed as $0, despite describing a multi-month procurement process involving specialized national firms and transaction advisory services. How can the amount be listed as $0 if OHA is actively seeking multiple bids for professional advisory services related to a potential media acquisition? Second, the notice references prior SPO-007 procurement exemption and invokes a shortened objection deadline or timeline. Beneficiaries deserve adequate notice and meaningful opportunity to understand and question major strategic initiatives involving trust resources. Third, the notice states that OHA intends to directly engage firms because a traditional competitive procurement process may not be practicable. Yet beneficiaries still have not been informed what opportunity OHA may be evaluating, the estimated costs, or whether such a purchase aligns with OHA's fiduciary responsibilities. The board chair, Kaiali'i Kahele, is identified as the primary responsible staff persons conducting and managing this procurement. Chair Kahele should ensure that procurement exemptions and sole source procurements involving major policy or financial implications are openly disclosed and discussed during board meetings, so trustees and beneficiaries remain properly informed. I also encourage beneficiaries to monitor OHA's procurement solicitations and awards webpage, because these postings may reveal significant initiatives receiving little public attention. OHA is not a private corporation. OHA is a state entity established through the Hawaii State Constitutional Convention and ultimately created through the votes of the people of Hawaii, both Hawaiians and non-Hawaiians. Transparency is not optional. Fiduciary duty is not optional. I respectfully urge the committee and the full board of trustees to publicly disclose whether OHA is actively exploring acquisition of a broadcast media entity, the estimated costs involved, the strategic justification for such consideration, and how such actions directly advance measurable beneficiary outcomes. Kia kuapu, God bless all of you.
Mahalo. Thank you. All right. Leanne, do we have anyone else online or in person? Community concerns?
No one else has signed up.
No? Any announcements, members? No? I know that we'll be going into our budget and finance meeting shortly. How long do you? 15 minutes, okay, from adjournment. Okay, mahalo to everyone for your participation. There being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn this May 13th meeting of the Committee on Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment? So moved. Thank you, Trustee Waihe. Motion's been made. Leanne, roll call, please.
Trustee Ahuna,
Yes.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa, Trustee Kahele,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Lindsay, she's saying yes. Okay, thank you. Trustee Souza's excused. Trustee Wahe'e,
Yes.
Chair Galutaria.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes and 1 excused.
Okay, very good. Members, 15 minutes before the next committee. Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Time.